If you're a Christian, please don't skip this video because it's going to change the perspective of your Christianity. And I'm going to start by asking you a question. When you walk in downtown, wherever city you are in this country, Canada, are you able to tell that someone is a Christian? You just look at somebody and you say, oh, I think that person is a Christian. Believe me, it's very difficult to tell that someone is a Christian in this country. But you are able to tell that someone is Muslim. Why is that so? You know, I've been reading a lot of time, and you know what I found? I found that Canada is a Christian country. Canada is a Christian nation. But in a Christian nation, or in a Christian country, you are not able to tell if someone is a Christian, but you are able to tell if someone is a Muslim. Why? Because the way Christians dress, you cannot tell the difference between who is a Christian and who is not a Christian. But the way Muslim dresses, so by just look at them, you are able to tell, oh, this one is Muslim. If you don't see by the way they dress, you will see by the mark on their forehead because of their type of worshiping. And you are likely to tell like, oh, I think this person is Muslim. Just by walking in downtown, you can make that difference. The second thing you will observe, go to university. Are you able to tell that someone is a Christian in university or in college? You are not able to tell if somebody is a Christian in college or university in a Christian nation, but you are able to tell that someone is Muslim in college or university in a Christian nation. Why? Because you can be in this type of study group with your friend and it's 12 or probably 1. They will stop everything. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You guys are working on an assignment which is due in the next hour. They will say, I have to go to pray. You'll be like, come on, man, we have to finish the assignment. Say, yes, we have to finish the assignment, but I have to go pray first and then we can continue. Even if you're in a class, the lecturer is talking about what is going to be on the exam, they will leave the classroom to go pray. You'll be like, okay, why? Oh, I'm Muslim. So you are able to tell that somebody is Muslim in college or university, but you are not able to tell if someone is a Christian in a Christian nation. Let me give you a scenario of 2 girls who grew up the same type of life. One grew up in a Christian family and one grew up in a Muslim family. They all go to elementary school, they all go to high school. They finish high school, they all go to university. This is how a Christian girl will enter in university, and this is how she's going to come out of that university. And this is how a Muslim girl will enter in that university, and this is how she is going to come out of that university. What is wrong? This is a question I have, especially to church leaders in this country. I have this question to you Christian leaders in this country. I have a question to all of you professors of St. Paul University, because that's the only university I know since it's in Ottawa, where people, when I was asking about theology and study of God and so on, they said, yeah, you have to go to St. Paul. What are you guys doing? What is wrong? Because if until today you are not able to see that something is wrong and that the strategy you are using is not working, then you must be really, really blind. Today in Ottawa, you will notice that churches that has been Christian churches for 100 years, for 150 years, they are being sold. Why? Because there is no members to go in those churches, and those churches are being sold and transformed into mosques. I don't have a problem with our brothers Muslim acquiring all these buildings. I have a problem with a church that has been here built for more than 150 years, where people have been worshiping, the memory of all those people who were in that church, despite the fact it's a building only, who have been worshiping in that building, will be wiped off, and one day you wake up at a place that you know there was a church, you find it's a mosque in downtown Ottawa. The issue isn't those people who purchased the church. The issue is the strategy. Why do Christians allow such kind of things to happen? Why you are still today holding in a church that has only 20 members, but now it's very expensive to maintain the church? Why can't you see that your strategy is not working? I have a question to you, church leaders. Today, when you do statistics, are your church members increasing? Are your church members decreasing? Because I'll read you some stats here, okay? In Canada, as per today, it seems like we are 41 million people in this country. 41 million. How many of these people are Christian? 19 million are Christian in this country, according to the statistics of 2021. I'm pulling the information from Wikipedia. 19 million people, which is 53% of these people, are Christian. And 1.7 million people are Muslim. But still you are not able to tell who is a Christian in all these people who make 53% of the population. Simply because they say they are Christian, but in reality, they don't show something that proves that they are Christian. And let's work the math to see if what I'm saying is completely true. We are going to go back 30 years ago from now, okay? So I'm going to go back to 1991. From 1991 to 2001. In 1991, Christian made up 83.5% in this country, which is like 22.5 million Christian in Canada. Do you know what was the percentage of Muslim at that time? In 1991, Muslims were only 0.9%, which is like 253,000 people who were identifying themselves as Muslim, according to Wikipedia. 2001, Christian made up 77.1%. That is approximately 22.8 million people in this country. So the number moved from 83% to 77% from 1991 to 2001. What is the population of people identify as Muslim in 2001? 2%. From 0.9% to 2%. That is 579,000 people who identify themselves as Muslim. 2011, the number of Christians decreased again to 67.3%. That is 22.1 million people identify themselves as Christian. And what is the number of Muslim? In 2011, it is 3.2%. That is now 1.05 million people. Now, let's look at 2021. In 2021, people who identify themselves as Christian came to be 53.3%. That is like 19.3 million people identify themselves as Christian. From 83% to what? to 53.3% in a time frame of 30 years. And Muslim in 2021, 4.9%. That is the equivalent of 1.7 million people who identify themselves as Muslim. Why this change? Why this change? Why is the number of Christians decreasing, and why is the number of Muslims increasing? Why is it that Christian churches are closing and that mosques are opening every day? It's likely today that most people will want to identify themselves as Muslim than identify themselves as Christian. My question to you, Christian leaders, is why? Why don't you see that something is not working? Why don't you see that there is more work that has to be put in place in order to make things work? Today, when we come in your churches, when we go to church today, the majority of people in church are boomers. They are old people. It is very rare to find young people in many churches today. Even if all these young people will say, I am a Christian, you cannot find them at church. Why? What are you doing wrong in your church that does not attract the young people, which does not let the young people come into church? But believe me, you know where you will see young people? In a mosque. You will find a lot of young people in the mosque. And you will find a lot of young people proudly identifying themselves as Muslim, and they are not ashamed. But it is very rare to find a group of youth that are proudly identifying themselves as Christian. I'm not saying they are not, I'm just saying it is rare to find them. What is wrong, people? What is wrong, fellow Christian? What are we doing wrong that is making our numbers to shrink? We don't know what's going to happen 30 years from now. We don't know what's going to happen 50 years from now. But believe me, if by what is happening and the speed of which this is unfolding, 50 years from now in Ottawa, 50 years from now in Canada, Christian will be the minority. There will be the majority on papers that, Christian are the majority in this country. But I can guarantee you, if we don't change our strategy, if we don't change the way we are handling things, we are going to become the minority. We are going to become the minority. I wanted to finish by reading you something. On one video, I posted a video about Christianity, and someone put a comment. I'm going to read a comment that someone sent on one of the video I posted. This is what he said. I was asking, why are Christians not proud of themselves? Why are Christians not proud of identifying themselves as Christian? And what is stopping Christians to come together and do something in common? This is what someone posted in the comment section. Very few churches are speaking out against the genocide in Gaza. And he continues saying, unfortunately, many of us have been forced to leave the church and explore spirituality on our own, in our own homes. We can no longer live with hypocrisy. So you understand, even those people are Christian, even those people still have the courage to go to church, they are calling out our hypocrisy. They are calling out our double standard. After we have lived generations as Christians, teaching people about love and teaching people about injustice, teaching people about all this, and then something unfolds right now in front of our eyes, and they ask Christian, every Christian goes mute. and quiet. So you know what's going to happen, and you will realize that most of people are in this movement of protesting and so on. They are young people, which means they are not going to join the church. They are going to say, no, we are not part of the church, because this church can't even see injustice by their own eyes. Because it is the church that taught people that they shouldn't revenge. We all know the story of residential schools in Canada. The church taught people that you cannot revenge because revenge belongs to God. So which means whenever you see injustice, you have to call injustice out. And Christians do not encourage violence to be solved by violence. That is what the scripture says, that revenge belongs to the Most High. It doesn't belong to man. Which means the teaching of Jesus Christ, if someone slaps you on this cheek, you have to turn the other cheek. So after we have taught people all these type of things, and suddenly we see a lot of things happen, we keep quiet. According to the person who commented, I think Jim, it makes many people wonder if as Christians are trustworthy. That is not a problem. So there are actually many problems. I'm gonna do a video of all the comments that I receive. Why people do not want to identify themselves as Christian, and why the number of Christians is decreasing. I'm going to do an entire series on that, so that we can be able to know what is the problem. Because the problem is there, and we can see there is a problem, but we are refusing to identify the problem. Another issue we'll realize is that most churches today have become a maintenance church. Churches spend a lot of money on buildings. Churches spend a lot of money on expanding buildings and acquiring properties. Churches don't spend a lot of money on the people who are in the church. Churches don't spend a lot of money on evangelizing people on the street. They do all these funny stuff online newsletter. People don't read those newsletters. People want to see action. They create all this fancy stuff, coffee in church, let's do this, let's do that. They don't work. Because if those things were working, our number could not be decreasing every day. So, to you Christian leaders, to St. Paul that is producing teachers, pastors, evangelists, and so on, maybe what you're teaching these people is not working, and you have to change the syllabus. It's not working. It's not working, St. Paul. What you're teaching these people is not working, especially when it comes, I'm talking the aspect of those who are Christian, who are called to go serve in a Christian community. What they are being taught by university is not working. Because if it was working, we could have seen some improvement. The number of Christians is decreasing day after day, while St. Paul and the other Christian universities are producing people every day who come in church. They got paid a lot of money, but the number of people does not increase. In fact, what is happening, it is exactly what was written by Brother Paul in Romans chapter 12 verses 1, when he said, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so you can understand the will of God that is good, acceptable, and perfect." What is happening is actually the church is conforming to the world. The church is conforming to the pattern of the world instead of the church transforming the world to conform like the church. So we are doing the inverse. That's what is happening. Because the church has completely failed, and the church leaders have failed, the last resort is like, okay, let's become the world. And even that strategy is not working, because people do not expect such kind of things to be in church. So at the end of the day, if you say, okay, in this church, it doesn't matter, we can do whatever we want, we can drink alcohol in church, we can turn the church into a wrestling or a club or whatever, people still don't show up. Do you know why people don't show up? Because they don't expect those kind of activities in the church. Everybody knows those activities are not supposed to be in the church. But you, because you have completely failed, gotta have mercy. You are thinking by transforming the church into the world that will make things work. I am asking you one question. Why Muslims, despite the fact we accuse them of being radical, why their numbers are increasing and ours who are liberal, who allow everybody, who do everything trying to transform to the world, our number is decreasing? So you understand the issue is not about being liberal. There is something that the church does not do that is causing people to become Muslim. I don't know what it is. Maybe you and I can go on this journey of exploring what is really a problem. And if you know one of the problem, please put that problem in the comment section. I'll be able to read it as I read the comment of Brother Jim, who decided to stay home and explore spirituality at home. I hope this message gets to you. May God bless.